Hi, Josh.
Hi, Amanda. What are we talking about today?
I thought we would talk about notice periods. So picture this hypothetical. Potential client comes in to see you and they say, hey, I have an employment contract. This employment contract states that I need to give my employer X weeks or days or months of notice prior to me ending my employ with this company. But I don't want to do that. I'm done. I don't want to work for them anymore. Maybe I have another job. Maybe I want to sail off into the sunset, whatever it may be. Do I have to give them that notice period in my contract?
This is a good news, bad news situation. So, good news is this affects very few people. This is only going to be an issue if you have an employment contract that requires you to give a certain amount of notice. The vast majority of employees in Connecticut and around the country are at-will employees, which means on the downside, they can be terminated anytime, but on the upside, they can leave anytime they want. And indeed, they can actually be terminated early if they try to give notice. We've done another video about that. So we're talking about a relatively small pool of people. But let's say you are one of those employees who has a contract, you have to give notice, and you don't want to work through your notice period. Good news is the 13th Amendment to the US Constitution prohibits employers from forcing you to work. They cannot make you come to work and do your job. The bad news is there can be consequences if you refuse to give the notice period that you are required to give. And really, those negative consequences fall into two buckets. One is that if you don't work the notice period, you could, in theory, be sued for breach of contract. The damages would be the additional marginal cost to your employer of finding somebody to do your job. Imagine that you're a physician and your employer, rather than having you work for that 6 months notice period, has to go out and get a locums who's going to cost more. Well, the difference between that locums compensation rate and your salary is the damages from that in that breach of contract case. Theoretically, you could be sued for it. Negative consequence number two is a lot of times there are benefits of a contract, post-employment benefits that are tied to giving a notice period. Let's use the physician again. Your employment contract might say, hey, we're going to pick up the tail coverage for your malpractice insurance, but we're only going to do it if you give us enough notice. You don't give enough notice, they're not going to pay for your tail. Now you got to pay for it yourself. And that's a reasonable deal. You made it at the beginning of your employment, and now it's going to be enforceable at the end. I'll finish with some good news though. Good news again, there's often the potential to negotiate here. So if you're thinking, I want to leave my job, I don't want to give the notice period, that's a pretty good time to get in touch with an employment lawyer, and maybe they can help you figure out how to negotiate an exit that is going to minimize the negatives and maximize the positives.
Super helpful, and I love the positive spin. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.